The Bennett family had always craved the ocean's peace. When Paul and Emily found a weathered cottage on a windswept bluff, they knew it was home for them and their 5-year-old daughter, Sophie. Their scrappy terrier, Milo, came too, a wiry bundle of energy who'd chase waves with Sophie all day. But that first night, as the sea roared below, Milo perched on Sophie's windowsill and growled. A low, steady rumble, aimed at the glass. Emily frowned, tugging him down. "What's out there, buddy?" she murmured. Paul peeked outside, nothing but moonlit waves. Yet Milo's growls pierced the quiet, chilling them both. The pattern held. Every night, around 1 a.m., Milo would leap onto Sophie's sill, fix his eyes on the dark beyond and growl, soft at first, then louder, his small frame trembling. Sophie slept through it, her curls fanned across the pillow, but Paul started pacing the hall. "Maybe the raccoon," he said, setting a flashlight by the bed. Emily wasn't convinced. Milo ignored critters back in the city. They tried closing the curtains, but he'd paw them open, nails clicking against the glass. One night, Paul stayed up, coffee in hand, watching. Milo's growls synced with the tide, peaking as waves crashed harder. "He's losing it," Emily whispered, bleary-eyed. They called a local vet, who checked Milo's ears and teeth. "Fit as a fiddle," she said. "Could be the salt air." Back home, Sophie woke once, blinking. "Milo's mad at the wind," she mumbled, her voice small. Paul rigged a camera by the window. Hours of footage showed Milo staring, growling, but the lens caught only fog and sea spray. Desperate, Paul pulled on boots the next night, trudging down the bluff with a flashlight. The waves looked normal, but the air stung his nose, sharp, almost metallic. He chalked it up to seaweed, but Milo's growls grew sharper when he returned. Emily's nerves frayed. "What if he snaps at her?" she asked, clutching Paul's arm. "We can't keep ignoring this." A storm rolled in on the 10th night, rain lashing the cottage. Milo's growls turned to barks, sharp, insistent, his claws scrabbling at the window pane. Sophie stirred, whining, "Make him stop." Paul scooped Milo up, but the dog twisted free, darting to Sophie's bedside and tugging her blanket with his teeth. Emily's heart lurched. She grabbed Sophie, who coughed faintly, her cheeks unnaturally pale in the dim light. "She's sick," Emily gasped, panic rising. Milo bolted back to the window, barking at the glass until it rattled. "That's enough," Paul shouted, storming over. He flung the window open, wind whipping inside, and froze. A harsh, acrid smell flooded the room, not salt or rain, but something chemical, burning his throat. Below the bluff, the waves churned black and oily, glinting unnaturally in the lightning. Sophie coughed again, a weak, raspy sound, and Milo lunged, snapping at the air, his barks desperate. Emily screamed, "Get her out." Paul scooped Sophie up, her body limp against him, and the family stumbled downstairs as the stench thickened. Milo racing ahead, barking to lead the way. They called the Coast Guard at dawn, Milo trembling by Sophie's side as she lay bundled in a blanket, her breathing shallow but steadying. A team arrived, suits rustling, and tested the water below the bluff. "Toxic spill," the officer said grimly. "Old fuel line ruptured offshore, benzene levels off the charts. Been seeping up with the tides into the air." Paul's stomach dropped. "That smell, it was in her room?" The officer nodded. "You're lucky. A few more nights, and it could have killed you all, especially the little one." Emily clutched Sophie, realization crashing over her. He wasn't growling at Sophie. He was warning us about that. Milo's nose had caught the poison creeping in night after night. That evening, safe in a motel, Paul crouched by Milo, ruffling his ears as tears welled up. "You're a genius, you little menace," he choked out, voice breaking. Emily sat beside Sophie, who giggled weakly as Milo licked her face, her color slowly returning. "He's my best friend," Sophie whispered, hugging the dog tight. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, her hand trembling as she stroked Milo's fur. "We almost lost her," she said softly, looking at Paul. "He's our shield, our miracle." The parents were horrified to learn the reason, a silent killer poisoning their daughter. But Milo's growls had saved them. Don't miss out on more stories like this. Paul's voice seemed to echo in the room. Subscribe now Hit that button and join our family of animal lovers. Share your own tale in the comments. Has a pet ever saved you? We're dying to hear, because heroes like Milo deserve every cheer.